You know that feeling when you're standing on the edge of a diving board, your toes are curled over the edge. The rough, grippy surface is the only thing keeping you from falling, and the water below looks impossibly far away. Your heart is doing this weird drum solo against your ribs, a frantic rhythm of fear and excitement. That was me, standing on the polished marble sidewalk outside a store called Elysian Attire. For me, the water wasn't a swimming pool. It was a world of silk, lace, and chiffon. A world I'd only ever looked at through a screen or the glossy pages of a magazine. My name is Alex. I'm 23. To anyone who knows me, I'm about as remarkable as a grey rock. I have a decent job in data entry, which is just a fancy way of saying I stare at spreadsheets until my eyes blur. I have brown hair that I keep short, a jaw that's usually covered in a day's worth of stubble, and a build that's, well, average. I go to the gym a few times a week. Not to get huge, but just to keep from turning into a human-shaped beanbag chair. I'm the kind of guy you'd pass on the street and forget about 3 seconds later. Nameless. Faceless. A background character in everyone else's movie. But inside, where no one could see, there was another person. A person who didn't find comfort in hoodies and jeans, but who yearned for the whisper of a skirt against his legs, the delicate architecture of a lace bra, the transformative power of a pair of heels. This secret part of me had been there as long as I could remember. It started small. I remember being a kid, maybe 7 or 8, watching my older sister, Jessica, get ready for a school dance. She had this dress, a simple navy blue thing with a full, twirly skirt. When she spun around in front of her mirror, the fabric flared out like a flower blooming in fast motion. I was mesmerized. While she was out, I snuck into her room. The dress was lying on her bed. I just touched it. The material was smoother than anything I owned. I didn't dare try it on, but the memory of that fabric under my fingertips never left me. Over the years, the fascination grew. It became a hidden corner of my internet browser, a secret Pinterest board, a fantasy I would indulge in only in the safety and silence of my own apartment, late at night. But a fantasy can only sustain you for so long. Eventually, the longing becomes a physical ache. You want to feel it, not just see it. And that's what brought me here, to this street. Staring at the name Elysian Attire written in elegant gold script on a black awning. This wasn't some department store where I could get lost in the crowd. This was a boutique, the kind of place where immaculately dressed women with serene smiles would ask, "Can I help you?" the second you walked in. The window display was a work of art. A single mannequin, impossibly tall and slender, was draped in a flowing emerald green gown that looked like liquid silk. It was terrifyingly beautiful. I'd been circling the block for 20 minutes, my palms sweating. My cover story was flimsy, pathetic even. "I'm, looking for a gift for my girlfriend." I practiced it in my head, but the words felt like sandpaper in my mouth. I don't have a girlfriend. I haven't for a while. It's hard to let someone into your life when you're hiding such a huge part of yourself. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I pulled on the heavy brass door handle. A gentle chime announced my arrival. The air inside was different. It was cool and smelled faintly of lavender and something else, something expensive. Soft, warm light from recessed fixtures made everything glow. Racks of clothing were spaced far apart, not crammed together like at a normal store. Each dress, each blouse, was given its own space to breathe, to be admired. The floor was a dark, polished hardwood, and a plush cream-colored rug sat in the center of the room. It was less like a store and more like a sanctuary. A sanctuary I was trespassing in. A woman behind a marble counter looked up. She was maybe in her late 20s, with dark, wavy hair pulled back into a loose bun and a genuinely warm smile. "Welcome to Elysian Attire. Let me know if you need any help." "Thanks," I mumbled, my voice sounding rougher than usual. "Just looking for my girlfriend." There. I'd said it. The lie was out, floating in the lavender-scented air. She just nodded, her smile never faltering, and went back to folding a delicate-looking scarf. I felt a small wave of relief. She wasn't suspicious. I was just another clueless boyfriend on a mission. I started to wander, pretending to browse. I let my fingers graze a silk blouse, a cashmere sweater. The fabrics felt even more incredible than I had imagined. But my eyes, despite my best efforts, kept drifting. They drifted past the sensible blouses and the tailored trousers, and they landed on the dresses. And then I saw it. It was on a mannequin in a corner alcove, bathed in its own soft spotlight. A dress of the palest, softest pink, the color of a sunrise on a cloudy day. It was a simple, sleeveless A-line cut, but the fabric was what held me captive. It looked like it was spun from mist and whispers, a delicate chiffon that seemed to float even in the still air. It was elegant, feminine, and so beautiful it made my chest hurt. I imagined the feel of it, the way it would move, the way it would transform the person wearing it. I must have been staring for a full minute before I realized I was being watched, not by the woman at the counter, but by another employee who had emerged silently from a back room. This one was younger, probably my age. She had sharp, intelligent eyes and a calm, observant demeanor. She wasn't smiling a big, fake retail smile. She was just watching me, her head tilted slightly. Her name tag read Maya. I panicked. I quickly looked away from the pink dress and grabbed the sleeve of a nearby blazer. "This is nice," I said, to no one in particular. My heart was pounding. She saw me. She saw the way I was looking at that dress. She walked over, her footsteps silent on the rug. "That's a lovely choice," she said, her voice smooth and even. "But if she likes softer styles..." She gestured subtly with her chin toward the pink dress. "That one is a new arrival. The chiffon is Italian." My throat went dry. Was she calling my bluff, or was she just a good salesperson? "Oh, yeah, it's nice," I stammered. "I'm not sure it's her color, though." "Of course," Maya replied, her expression unreadable. "Well, the fitting rooms are just in the back if you decide on anything. Take your time." She gave me a small, polite nod and walked away, disappearing into another section of the store. The interaction left me rattled. But her words also planted a seed. The fitting rooms are just in the back. The thought was insane. It was reckless. It was also the only thing I could think about. This was my chance. The store was quiet. The first saleswoman was busy at the counter. Maya was somewhere else. I could grab the dress, slip into a fitting room, and for just 5 minutes, I could know what it felt like. My mind was a battlefield. One side screamed, "Are you crazy? You're going to get caught. They'll call the cops. They'll humiliate you." But the other side, the voice I had been suppressing for 23 years, whispered, "When will you ever get another chance? Just for a moment. Just for you." The whisper won. But as I walked toward the pink dress, my eyes caught something else, a smaller, more intimate display in an adjacent alcove. Lingerie. My feet stopped of their own accord. My plan to just try on a dress suddenly felt incomplete. If I was going to do this, if I was going to truly step into this other self, I had to do it right. The foundation is everything. After all, The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. The risk level just skyrocketed, and with it, a dizzying, terrifying thrill. This was no longer just about a dress. This was about the whole experience. I took a deep breath and stepped into the alcove. This was the deep end. I was about to jump. The lingerie section was a world within a world. If the main store was a sanctuary, this was the Holy of Holies. The lighting was even softer here, the air more hushed. Delicate pieces of silk and lace were draped over velvet hangers or laid out like jewels under glass. It was an arsenal of femininity, and I felt like an intruder, a spy in the house of love. My heart was a frantic bird beating against the cage of my ribs. Every nerve ending was on fire. I was acutely aware of my own body, my broad shoulders, my clumsy, large hands, the rough texture of my jeans. I felt like a bull in a china shop. I kept my head down, pretending to be intensely focused, as if I were a man on a very specific, very important mission for his discerning girlfriend. My eyes scanned the offerings, and my mind short-circuited. There was so much to take in. Colors ranged from innocent whites and nudes to passionate reds and mysterious blacks. The textures were a symphony for the eyes, the smooth gleam of satin, the intricate web of lace, the playful sheerness of mesh. My gaze fell on a black lace bra. It was hanging on a padded satin hanger, a perfect specimen of what I'd only ever seen online. It wasn't a practical, everyday t-shirt bra. This was a statement. The cups were made of a sheer black floral lace, leaving little to the imagination, with a delicate scalloped edge that trimmed the top. A tiny black satin bow sat in the center. Where the cups met, it had a delicate underwire, promising support and shape. The lace felt impossibly fragile under my calloused fingertips as I reached out, my hand trembling slightly. I traced the pattern of a rose woven into the fabric. I imagined the feeling of it. Not the sexual, pornographic fantasy, but the intimate, personal feeling. The feeling of the straps resting on my shoulders, the cups enclosing my chest, the band cinched securely around my back. It was a piece of architecture designed to create a shape, a silhouette. That was the complete opposite of my own. The desire to feel it against my skin was so sharp, so intense, it was like a physical hunger. My eyes darted around the store. No one was watching. I quickly took the hanger. The bra was a size 36B. I had no idea if that was right. I had no frame of reference, it didn't matter. It was a symbol. Next to it, laid out on a black velvet tray, were the matching panties. There were a few styles, but one in particular made my breath catch in my throat. A G-string. It was the color of a dark, rich cherry. It was barely there, a tiny triangle of silk at the front, and then just strings. A delicate elastic cord designed to wrap around the hips and disappear. The sheer audacity of it was intoxicating. It was pure, unadulterated confidence. It wasn't about comfort or practicality. It was about a secret, a feeling, a line so clean it was invisible under clothing. The thought of wearing something so minimal, so revealing, sent a jolt of pure adrenaline through me. It was the ultimate departure from the loose, comfortable boxers I wore every day. It was vulnerability and power all at once. I hesitated for a second longer than I did with the bra, my mind screaming at the recklessness of it all, before my hand darted out and scooped it up. It weighed nothing. It felt like holding a secret. My gaze continued to wander, and I saw something else. Something more complex. A bodysuit. It was a single piece, a marvel of engineering in black mesh and lace. It had thin, adjustable straps like a bra, but it flowed down to cover the torso, with panels of sheer mesh interspersed with opaque floral lace that snaked around the body in a strategic, flattering pattern. It was designed to hug every curve, to smooth and sculpt, to be a second skin. I pictured it, the way it would feel to pull it on, the cool mesh against my stomach and back, the way it would define my waist, even if just by illusion. It was a complete transformation in a single garment. It felt more advanced, more committed. It was too much. I backed away from it, my courage failing me. The bra and the G-string were a leap. The bodysuit was a plunge into the abyss. Not today. Clutching the bra and the G-string, I turned my attention back to the main floor, the pink dress. I walked over to it, my steps feeling strangely robotic. I took the dress off the mannequin's stand. The chiffon was even lighter than I'd imagined, cool and ethereal against my skin. It felt like holding a cloud. I had my prize, 3 pieces of a forbidden puzzle, a black lace bra, a red silk G-string, and a pale pink chiffon dress, a completely nonsensical combination. But it didn't matter. They were my tickets to another world. If only for a few minutes. I walked toward the back of the store, my head down, my heart hammering against my sternum. The fitting room area was marked by a heavy velvet curtain. I pushed it aside and found myself in a small private corridor with several doors. Each one was solid wood with a brass number on it. I picked number 3. My hand shaking so much I could barely turn the knob. I slipped inside and locked the door. The click of the lock was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. It was the sound of a decision made, the sound of a line crossed. There was no going back now. The fitting room was bigger than I expected. It was a small carpeted cube of privacy. A plush stool sat in one corner, and a 3-way mirror took up an entire wall. Waiting to pass judgment. The lighting was soft and flattering, designed to make you look your best. I felt a surge of panic. My best was not what I was about to see. I hung the pink dress carefully on a hook. Then I laid the bra and G-string on the stool. They looked so alien there, so vibrant and delicate against the plain beige of the upholstery. For a moment, I just stood there in my jeans and t-shirt, breathing heavily. "Okay, Alex," I whispered to my reflection. "You're doing this. Just do it." I stripped off my own clothes with clumsy, hurried movements. My t-shirt, my jeans, my socks, my boring grey boxer briefs. I folded them neatly and put them on the stool. A sad, masculine pile next to the vibrant promise of the lingerie. Standing there, completely naked in the bright, soft light. I felt exposed and vulnerable. My body was a landscape of angles and planes, of muscle and hair. It was a man's body. There was no denying it. A wave of doubt washed over me. This was stupid. I was going to look ridiculous. A parody. But the whisper was back. "Just see." I picked up the G-string first. The red silk was cool against my skin. It was so small, so insubstantial. Following the mental image I had, I stepped into it, pulling the delicate strings up over my hips. The sensation was electrifying. It was unlike anything I had ever felt. The minimal coverage was shocking, a tiny patch of silk in the front, and the thin string settling between my cheeks in the back. It was a feeling of near total nakedness, yet I was wearing something. The elastic pressed gently into my hips, creating a line that wasn't there before. I felt the cool air on my skin in a way I never had. I turned my back to the mirror, craning my neck to see. It was clean, unbroken. It was just skin. The feeling was so foreign, so intensely intimate, it made me gasp. I felt a strange combination of being incredibly exposed and secretly powerful. Next, the bra. This was the real test. My hands were shaking again as I picked up the black lace. I held it up in front of me. I'd seen Jessica do this a million times. I looped the straps over my shoulders, then reached behind my back to fumble with the clasp. My fingers felt like clumsy sausages. The tiny hooks and eyes were an impossible puzzle. My shoulders ached from the awkward angle. After what felt like an eternity of fumbling, I heard a faint click. It was done. I straightened up and faced the mirror, and the world stopped. It was me, but it wasn't. The man in the mirror had my face, my shoulders, my chest. But now, that chest was framed by two delicate black lace straps. Two scalloped-edged cups of sheer lace lay flat against my pectoral muscles, the tiny black bow sitting perfectly in the center of my sternum, the underwire pressed against my ribs, a firm, grounding pressure. It was wrong, and it was perfect. The dissonance was staggering. The masculine plane of my chest was now adorned with the most quintessentially feminine garment. The contrast should have been jarring. Laughable. But it wasn't. To me, it was beautiful. The delicate lace against my skin. The straps creating new lines on my body. It felt right. A piece of the puzzle I never knew was missing had just clicked into place. I ran a hand over one of the cups, feeling the texture of the lace against my palm, then against my own skin beneath. It was real. This wasn't a dream or a picture on a screen. This was happening. This was me. A thought. Sharp and clear. Cut through the emotional haze. I am doing this. And I like it. The shame I expected to feel was absent. In its place was a quiet, thrilling sense of self-discovery. This strange, hybrid person in the mirror was more me than the guy in the grey t-shirt had been just moments before. The reflection staring back at me was a paradox. The top half of my body, adorned in the delicate black lace of the bra, felt like a revelation. The bottom half, with the shockingly minimal red G-string, was a secret thrill. But my legs were just my legs. Muscular. Sprinkled with dark hair. Undeniably male. They looked disconnected from the story I was trying to tell on the rest of my body. The image felt incomplete. And I knew, with a sudden, startling clarity, that I had made a mistake. I hadn't brought anything for my legs. The thought was so powerful it overshadowed my fear. I had to go back out there. My heart began to hammer again. Leaving the safety of the fitting room, going back onto the sales floor, it was insane. But the image in the mirror was compelling me. I couldn't stop now. I was halfway through a transformation, and I had to see it through to the end. Taking a deep breath, I quickly pulled my jeans and t-shirt back on over the lingerie. The sensation was bizarre. The rough denim sliding over the whisper-thin G-string, the coarse cotton of my shirt hiding the delicate lace of the bra. It was my secret armor. No one could see it, but I could feel it. The straps on my shoulders, the wire under my chest, the elastic at my hips. I felt like a superhero in his civilian disguise. The secret identity was pressed against my skin. I unlocked the door and peeked out. The corridor was empty. I slipped out, my sneakers silent on the carpet, and made my way back toward the front of the store, my head down, my gaze fixed on the floor. I tried to look casual, like a man who had forgotten to check the price on something. I found the hosiery display near the lingerie section. It was an entire wall of possibilities, packaged in neat, flat cardboard envelopes with pictures of impossibly long, perfect legs. My eyes scanned the options, my mind racing. First, I saw the fishnets. Classic, edgy, a web of black nylon that both concealed and revealed. The diamond pattern was iconic, a symbol of punk rock and femme fatales. I picked up a package. The image showed a woman leaning against a brick wall, her legs looking a mile long. The texture, even through the plastic, seemed alluring, a rough, tactile experience. Then my eyes fell on the thigh-highs. These were different. They promised pure, liquid elegance. One package was for a pair of sheer black stockings that ended high on the thigh with a wide, ornate band of floral lace. The description boasted a silicone stay-up top. This was the detail that hooked me. The idea of stockings that would cling to your skin, held up by some invisible magic, without the need for a garter belt, felt like modern sorcery. It was sleek, seamless, and incredibly seductive. Finally, tucked away on a lower shelf, were the ankle socks. These were the opposite of the others. They were sweet, almost innocent. One pair was a sheer white with tiny embroidered daisies. Another had a delicate frill of lace around the cuff. They were meant to be worn with flats or cute little heels, a touch of playful charm rather than overt seduction. My mind was made up. The thigh-highs. They represented the peak of the fantasy for me. The ultimate expression of a long, elegant leg. I grabbed the package of sheer black lace tops. The cardboard felt cool and solid in my sweaty palm. The trip back to the fitting room was a blur of adrenaline. I felt like every eye in the store was on me, even though I knew, logically, that no one was paying me any attention. I fumbled with the door handle again, locked it behind me, and leaned against it, my eyes closed, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I'd done it. I had the final piece. I stripped off my jeans and t-shirt again, revealing the secret self underneath. The black bra and red G-string felt less shocking this time, more familiar. I tore open the cardboard packaging of the stockings, my fingers clumsy with anticipation. Inside, the stockings were folded into a neat, small square. I unrolled one. It was a long, impossibly delicate tube of sheer black nylon. It felt like smoke in my hands, weightless and cool. The lace top was even more beautiful in person, the floral pattern intricate and soft. I sat down on the plush stool, following some half-remembered instruction from a movie or a magazine. I bunched the stocking up in my hands, gathering it down to the toe. I pointed my foot and slipped the toe of the stocking over my own. The nylon was cool and tight. I slowly, carefully, began to unroll the stocking up my leg. The sensation was incredible. It was like pulling on a new skin. The sheer fabric compressed ever so slightly, smoothing over my calf, my knee, my thigh. The dark hairs on my legs, which had seemed so jarringly masculine just moments before, were now muted, softened, transformed by the sheer black veil. The nylon slid over my skin with a soft, whispering hiss. It was a sound of pure transformation. I pulled it all the way up until the wide lace band rested high on my thigh. I felt the gentle, tacky grip of the silicone strips against my skin. It held firm. It wasn't going anywhere. I took a moment, just breathing, feeling the sensation of one leg encased in this silken sheath, while the other was still bare. The contrast was stark. One leg was mine, familiar, ordinary. The other leg belonged to someone else, someone more elegant, more mysterious, with renewed determination. I repeated the process with the other stocking, bunching, slipping, and slowly, sensuously, rolling it up my leg until it met my thigh. Then I stood up. I turned to face the three-way mirror, and for the second time in 10 minutes, my breath was stolen from me. The man in the mirror was gone. The person looking back at me was a creation, a figure of strange and compelling beauty. The black lace bra defined my torso. The barely there G-string was a whisper of a secret. And my legs were no longer just legs. They were a statement. Sheathed in the sheer black nylon, they looked longer, sleeker, more defined. The harsh angles of muscle were softened into graceful curves. The lace tops high on my thighs were a decadent, luxurious detail, a promise of the secrets hidden underneath. I took a step, and the nylon whispered against itself. The feeling of the fabric moving with me, a second skin of pure elegance, was intoxicating. I slowly ran a hand down my leg, from the top of the lace band all the way to my ankle. The sensation of the smooth, slick nylon under my palm was electrifying. It was real. I stared at my reflection, turning slowly, seeing myself from every angle. The back view was particularly stunning. The clean lines of the G-string, the long expanse of my back framed by the bra straps, and the sheer black of the stockings disappearing up my thighs. It was a work of art. A living sculpture I had created out of my own body and these forbidden scraps of fabric. A dangerous thought bloomed in my mind, a mix of fear and exhilaration. What if someone saw me right now? The shame of the idea was quickly replaced by a flicker of pride. A part of me, a deep, hidden part, almost wanted to be seen. To have this version of myself acknowledged, validated. The final piece of the puzzle was waiting. The pale pink dress. It was time. With hands that felt surprisingly steady, I took the dress from its hook. The chiffon was a cool, weightless cascade in my hands. I gathered it up and lifted it over my head. The fabric fell around me in a soft, whispering rush. It settled on my shoulders, the sleeveless cut exposing the top of the lace bra straps just slightly. The chiffon skimmed over my chest, over the lingerie, down past my waist, and flared out gently around my hips, ending just above my knees. I smoothed the dress down and looked up at the mirror. And I laughed. Not a laugh of mockery, but a quiet, breathless laugh of pure, unadulterated joy. It was perfect. The soft, ethereal pink of the dress was a beautiful contrast to the sharp, dark lines of the black lingerie and stockings peeking out from underneath. The A-line cut was forgiving, skimming over my waist and hips, creating a feminine silhouette that I never dreamed I could have. The dress softened my shoulders, the stockings elongated my legs. I looked beautiful, not handsome, not pretty in a way that was trying to be a woman, just a beautiful, unique version of myself. This person in the mirror felt more real, more honest, than the man who had walked into the store. This was the me I had been hiding from the world, the me I had been hiding from myself. I twirled, just a little, on the soft carpet. The chiffon skirt flared out around me, just like my sisters had all those years ago. The feeling was freedom, pure, simple freedom. In that moment, standing in a locked fitting room, dressed in a stranger's clothes, I had never felt more like myself. I was lost in the reverie, in the reflection, in the rustle of the chiffon and the smooth slide of nylon against nylon. That's when I heard it. Knock, knock. The sound shattered the perfect, silent world I had built. It was sharp, real, and terrifyingly close. "Sir!" a voice called from the other side of the door. It was Maya. "Just checking in. Did you need a different size for your girlfriend?" Ice flooded my veins. My blood ran cold. I was frozen in place. A deer in the headlights. A boy in a pink dress and black lace. "No," I squeaked, my voice cracking, coming out an octave higher than normal. "No, I'm fine, thanks." I backed away from the door, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. My eyes darted around the small room, looking for an escape that didn't exist. But it was too late. Through the small inch-wide gap between the wooden door and its frame, I saw a shadow. She must have been leaning in, trying to hear my muffled reply, and in that sliver of a view, I knew what she saw. Not a man in a t-shirt. She saw the impossible silhouette. She saw the pale pink chiffon. She saw me. The silence that followed my pathetic squeak was the loudest thing I had ever heard. It stretched for an eternity, thick with unspoken questions and my own mortifying panic. In my mind, I saw it all playing out, the confused pause, followed by a gasp, then the sound of her footsteps hurrying away to get a manager. Or worse, security. I imagined the door being thrown open, the laughter, the pointing, the cell phone cameras. My life would be over, all for a few minutes of fantasy in a fitting room. I stood paralyzed in the center of the room, my hands clutching the soft chiffon of the dress as if it were a shield. My breath was trapped in my lungs. I was a statue of pure, crystalline fear. Then the doorknob began to turn. A primal scream of "No!" was caught in my throat, but no sound came out. My body reacted before my mind could. In a clumsy, desperate scramble, I half ran, half fell onto the plush stool, trying to make myself smaller, trying to hide. The movement was awkward. The hem of the pink dress rode up my thighs, exposing the sheer black of the stockings and the ornate lace tops. I instinctively tried to pull it down, a futile gesture of modesty in a situation that was so far beyond saving. The door opened slowly, not thrown open in anger, but pushed gently. Hesitantly, Maya stood in the doorway. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. Her expression wasn't one of shock or disgust or amusement. It was neutral. A blank slate of professional calm that was somehow more terrifying than open mockery. Her eyes, those sharp, intelligent eyes, took in the scene in an instant. They flickered from my face, flushed with shame, down the pale pink dress, to my legs, sheathed in black nylon. I saw her gaze pause for a microsecond on the sliver of black lace from the bra strap peeking out at my shoulder, and then on the telltale hint of the cherry-red G-string's thin strap at my hip, visible where I had twisted in my haste to sit down. Her eyes finally came to rest on the floor, where my sad pile of men's clothing lay next to the discarded cardboard packaging from the stockings. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just sat there, pinned by her gaze, waiting for the verdict. For the world to end. She didn't say anything at first. She simply stepped fully into the fitting room and gently closed the door behind her, enclosing us in the small, silent space. The click of the latch was deafening. My heart sank. I was trapped. "I'm sorry," I finally managed to whisper, the words tasting like ash. This isn't... I was just kidding around. It was a joke." My voice was thin and trembling. The lie was so transparent, so pathetic. It was painful to even say. Maya didn't respond to my flimsy excuse. She just looked at me, her expression softening from neutral to something I couldn't quite decipher. It looked like understanding. She took a small step closer, her gaze gentle. "You don't have to apologize," she said, her voice quiet and even, completely devoid of judgment. She gestured towards the lingerie I was wearing. "You have excellent taste. That bra is one of our best sellers. The lace is very fine." I stared at her, dumbfounded. My mind couldn't process her words. I was expecting an alarm, and instead, I was getting a fashion critique. It was so unexpected, so disarming, that it completely shattered my panic. She then crouched down slightly, not in a threatening way, but in a way that made her less imposing. Her eyes went to my legs. Those stockings are a great choice for you, too, she said, as if we were just two people discussing fashion. You have a good leg line for thigh highs, but... She paused, her professional eye taking over. Sometimes the silicone can dig in if you have them on for a long time. Did you want to try a garter belt? It can be more comfortable for all-day wear. I was speechless. A garter belt. She was giving me practical advice. My brain was still trying to reboot from the initial shock. I stammered, unable to form a coherent thought. Maya seemed to sense my overwhelming confusion and shame. She straightened up and gave me a small, kind smile. Hey, she said softly. It's okay. Really, you can breathe. And just like that, I did. A huge, shuddering breath escaped my lungs. A breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. The tension in my shoulders eased by a fraction. I see clients like you more often than you'd think. She continued, her tone becoming conspiratorial, as if she were letting me in on a trade secret. Men who appreciate beautiful things. Men who want to feel what it's like. Fashion is for everyone. It's about expressing who you are on the inside. It doesn't have a gender. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. I didn't know if they were from relief or from the years of pent-up emotion that her simple, kind words had just unlocked. To be seen. Truly seen. And not just accepted, but understood. It was a feeling I had never experienced before. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat and tried again. I've always wanted to. Since I was a kid. I just never thought I could. Why not? She asked, her question simple and direct. Because, sir. I gestured helplessly at my body, at my face. Because I'm a man. Men don't wear dresses. Men don't wear lace. They would think I'm a freak. The word came out as a broken whisper. It was the word I had been calling myself in the darkest corners of my mind for years. Maya's expression grew serious. She sat down on the edge of the stool opposite me, creating a sense of shared space, of equality. Who cares what people think? She said, her voice firm but still gentle. The only person who gets to decide what you wear is you. The only person who gets to define who you are is you, and for what it's worth. She looked me up and down again, this time with the critical eye of a stylist. That dress looks fantastic on you. The pink is a great color with your skin tone, but the fit is a little tight in the shoulders. She said it so matter-of-factly. It made me laugh. A real laugh this time, shaky and wet with unshed tears, but genuine. The sheer absurdity of the situation me. A grown man in a pink dress and lingerie. Getting professional fitting advice from a saleswoman who had caught me was overwhelming. You're not going to call anyone? I asked. The last vestiges of my fear clinging on. She shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. And say what? Security. We have a code. Pinker customer is looking fabulous in the fitting room and needs to be stopped immediately. Her humor was a balm. It washed away the last of my terror, replacing it with a fragile, burgeoning sense of hope. My name is Maya, she said, extending a hand. I looked at her hand, then back at her face. I took it. Her grip was firm and warm. I'm Alex, I said, and for the first time, I felt like I was introducing the real me. The fitting room, which moments ago had been a prison of my own making, was now a sanctuary. The air was no longer thick with fear, but with a strange, wonderful sense of possibility. Maya's acceptance hadn't just been a passive act, it was an active, engaging form of kindness that made me feel safe. Okay, Alex, she said, her tone shifting from comforting friend to skilled professional. Let's get this right. If you're going to do this, You're going to do it with style. A nervous laugh escaped me. I don't know the first thing about style. That's what I'm here for, she replied with a wink. First things first. The foundation. The bra you chose is beautiful for its look, but for a male chest, creating a natural-looking curve is the real challenge. You don't have the breast tissue to fill out the cup. So it can look a bit flat. She was right. I looked in the mirror and saw what she meant. The lace was beautiful against my skin, but the cups were concave, empty. A lot of my clients who cross-dress, or our trans customers, prefer a padded bra or a push-up bra, she explained, her voice a cascade of expert knowledge. Not to create a huge cleavage, necessarily, but to give a soft, rounded shape under clothing. It helps the whole silhouette look more natural, more balanced. She pointed to the straps. And you need to adjust these properly. You pull them tight enough to give lift, but not so tight that they dig into your shoulders or strain your back. It's a science. I listened, completely rapt. This wasn't just talk. This was education. It was a language I had never known how to speak, and she was translating it for me. And for down below, she continued, her tone never wavering from its professional calm. The G-string is a bold choice. It's fantastic for avoiding panty lines, but let's be honest, it's not exactly built for all-day comfort, especially with male anatomy. Have you ever considered something like a boy short or a bikini cut in a stretch lace or microfiber? They offer more coverage and support, but they can still feel incredibly feminine and sexy. She was opening up a whole new world of options I had never even considered. My experience was limited to furtive online browsing, based on aesthetics alone. She was talking about comfort, practicality, and the lived experience of wearing these clothes. Now, for the main event, she said, turning her attention to the pink dress. As I said, the color is perfect, but the cut isn't quite right for your frame. The shoulders are too narrow, and it's pulling across your back. A man's shoulders are typically broader than a woman's of a similar size, even if you're slender. That's one of the biggest challenges. She stood up. Stay here. Don't move. I have an idea. She slipped out of the fitting room, leaving me alone with my reflection again. But this time, I didn't see a freak or a parody. I saw a student. I saw Alex. A work in progress, being guided by an expert. I felt a surge of gratitude so powerful it almost knocked me over. This stranger, this angel named Maya, was giving me a gift I could never repay. A few minutes later, she returned, her arms laden with clothes. Okay, she announced. I've brought options and She held up a dress. It was a deep navy blue, made of a soft, stretchy jersey material. This is a wrap dress, she explained. It's a magical garment because you can tie it yourself. It's incredibly forgiving for different body shapes. It creates a V-neck, which is flattering on almost everyone, and it cinches at the waist, creating an hourglass illusion, regardless of what you're working with. And next, she held up a skirt. It was a black A-line skirt that fell to the knee. A simple A-line is your best friend, she said. It flares out from the waist, so it doesn't matter if your hips are narrow. It creates the curve for you. You can pair this with any kind of top.